There he is.
Hello.
5 seconds.
And you make a quorum.
Look at that.
All right. Well, now that we have quorum, we'll go ahead and call to order today's meeting. You got everybody for attendance?
Yep.
Perfect. First agenda item here is approval of the January meeting minutes in the packet. That's Appendix A. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes? Or any questions, I guess, is the first question. Okay, then I'll go ahead and move the motion to approve our January meeting minutes. Is there a second?
Me, Kim.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. We have a small crowd. Anyone looking to make a public comment of any kind tonight? No obligation, but standing offer.
Good to see you.
You as well? Making my
Usually I see you there. Now
Yeah.
In person, that's impressive.
making my annual appearance. All right.
I have a question.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Will there be in the cycling trails discussion or the survey report, will there be any discussion at that point, or is the only time to comment in the public comment?
Just during the public comment period, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to.
Okay. Richard, can he stay there, or does he have to move somewhere else?
Oh, right now.
Sorry about that. He will need a microphone.
Okay. Step over there.
Who joins Zoom? For some reason, they're okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, hi. My name is David Hetty, and I am a Newburgh resident. Have been here about 3 years. Highly involved with CPRD as a coach for basketball, and helped with soccer a ton, and lots of other things. So thank you all for the work that you're doing. And just wanted to just share a little bit. I don't have any written thoughts or anything, but I have been following closely, been involved with the Riley Park discussion, went to some of the initial planning meetings that were happening around the master plan that took place at the Cultural Center, and was encouraged by the collaboration there with a lot of different trail users. And as a person that had both hikes and walks and rides my bike using trails, was really encouraged that there was good conversation and planning around multi-use trails of that Riley Park. And so I have been a user of those trails for the past few years that I've lived here, and up to 2 to 3 times a week riding my bike up there, meeting friends, and has always been a really important place for me. Really didn't know it was much of a contentious project and park until just recently. And yeah, that's been hard for me as somebody that really gets a lot of joy out of riding my bike, to have a close by place to go. And yeah, I was at the meeting when the park was banned to bicycles, and I overheard a comment about trails, an alternative cycling trail being proposed. And so I'm interested in hearing what is the state of that search and what is happening there. And then would just like to say, looking at the trails report, seeing that about from that data, about 20% of the respondents said that they'd been using trails in this area for bicycling, about 3% for equestrian. It's just important as a local person here in Newburgh that everybody has access to the trails, all users for what they want to use it for. And currently there is not a place for me to ride my bicycle. So not interested in politics or arguing. I'm interested in hiking and biking and using trails as a local Newburgh resident. So that's really it. I'm interested in an update and And if there is not a trail being proposed for cycling, is there a possibility of reopening Riley Park until one is found? So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. No one else wanted to make any comments tonight?
You got someone online?
Jim, you weren't looking to make any specific public comment?
Yeah, this is Jim Booker. I'll make a very brief public comment here.
Okay.
I'm a Sherwood resident and a very frequent user of Riley Park. I go on foot, so it's always running or walking or some combination in between, both by myself and with my family. And I just want to make a quick thank you to park staff who've been busy up there, and the conditions are just remarkably good. I was up there this morning before the rains really got started, and I'm just delighted in what the condition of the tread is and how good it is for walking. Just one minor comment: the connector road between the two cultivated fields does have a little bit of tire damage on it right now from use during this muddy season. But other than that, things are in fantastic shape up there. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will close the public comment period and move into our agenda. Board of Directors report. I listened in to the recording. I think Matt was there in person. Jim's also here. I think the big one, which we also have on the agenda to discuss, is new committee rules that we might need to tighten up. Just a few things that we do as a committee and just how we operate. But other than that, there are a few items that they ran through.
I'm so sorry.
No additional discussion on this new or potentially soon to be proposed alternative bike park. So we're hoping maybe we'll get some more clear answers here in the near future. Maybe we'll get an update from staff or Jim about what might be going on there. But I don't know if anybody else had anything else to add from the board meeting. Jim?
I don't have anything alternative right now. I know we talked about, Casey might have more information than me. We talked
Hey, Jim,
about.
can you come up to a mic, please?
I'll sit next. I don't have any information right now. We've talked about maybe working with the county on a piece of property by the river, but I'm not sure where that's at right now. Casey might have more information since he doesn't, so we don't really have information on an alternative side at this point.
Okay. All right. Did you have anything else to add about the board meeting? No. Moving on to committee member comments or updates. Anybody have any comments or updates?
I'll give a quick update on recreational immunity. I believe there's a emergency Senate bill that's been floating around. I know that earlier this week, a number of people from across the state converged at the Capitol to encourage lawmakers to remedy that so that trails can remain open. I don't know that this is true or not. I haven't confirmed it myself, but I've heard that Carlton closed down some of its parks because of the recreational immunity changes.
Yeah, I wrote a letter to the district representative today and one to the Senate today. And there was some discussion during the SDAO conference in Seaside over the weekend that a lot of people they're going to have a lot of emails and letters and things going forward. So hopefully they get enough support that they do something about it. I don't think it's the permanent measure. It's more of a temporary thing until they can get back and write up some more laws or whatever. So that's about all I know.
Was there already a hearing for that bill? Do we know?
I don't. I'm
not sure.
I didn't look at the date on it. but it's coming up soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because usually, I mean, all the bills go through committee, and there's an opportunity for in-person testimony or additional written testimony on top of what we might submit to our.
And I should say that our board, approved sending our signatures in for that as well. So.
Okay. Well, hopefully, we'll have a good resolution for that. Is there anything else? Anybody else have any comments? All right. Well, I'll just make a short comment since I really live over in Bend. I'm making my guest appearance in person. I saw there was a recent posting in Bend actually for a trails coordinator position at Bend Park and Rec, and just looking over there, they've got quite the system, and I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to look at other park districts and just how they share the load for trails, because from my experience working with Brian, it's one of the many things that your team juggles with other responsibilities. So as we go through the results of this survey and in our future work, thinking about are there opportunities to maybe look at case studies or other park districts in the state or around the country who have good trail support systems within their staff, and thinking about how we might be able to kind of lend that additional information to our board as they consider future funding packages. But other than that, I'm here in person. That's an update. So, all right. Moving on. The Community Trails Survey Report, second reading and discussion. So another fun, almost 200-page meeting packet, but hopefully folks kind of had an opportunity to skim through that executive summary is really the main part there. The report, Matt and I have been working on refining some of it, clarifying some things, fact-checking the actual results. I think overall, really satisfied with the turnout with 12.8% response rate from our sample, which was 4,810 folks were randomly selected and sent physical mailers. Some really good results from that. Just real quick, 79% of people who responded said that they use CPRD trails, or they have in the last year. So a good 8 out of 10 folks use our trails, which I think is really cool. Obviously, we can't necessarily expect 100% to use them. And of course, this just looked at folks 18 and older as a survey population, because registered voters was our total population. But 87% say that trails are important to their community. 80% say that the benefits of trails outweigh any potential negative impacts. 81% support the addition of more trails, and 51% are willing to pay $50 per year or more for trail development and maintenance. So I think, if there are any questions or major concerns about the report or any of the information in the packet regarding the survey, Matt and I worked a lot to really kind of refine it down to, Matt has a one-pager in development. We've been working behind the scenes on a presentation, which the slides were included in the meeting packet, that would be recorded and provided to the board as kind of like, here, we're going to show you this video presentation. And then the idea is that we'll have a web page on the CPRD website that would have that video recording, so folks could see a one-pager, but they could also watch a video recording and specifically of that presentation instead of trying to go through a board meeting to find it. So were there any questions or concerns right out the gate?
Do we get to see the video?
Tonight? I don't think so.
It's going to take a while to edit things. I should say I want to thank everyone who helped with the slides and getting the presentation together, trying to clarify the survey. It was really a group effort from other committee members. I appreciate folks also being willing to speak on the presentation. I'm going to see if I can get that edited in. It may be too tight of a deadline. Mainly because we have 1 week before the board meeting. Normally we have 2 weeks, just the way the month flies. So we have a little less time to edit things. So, but the effort on everybody's part and the input, very helpful, and I really appreciate the extra time everybody put into pulling it together.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. And then, who's planning on being there at the board meeting for this presentation? Do we know? Or are you going to be there, Q?
I will not be in person. And I don't know if I'll be in Zoom. There's another engagement at work, but I think we were hoping to find maybe another voice than Matt or myself to kind of just introduce the video, and then hopefully both of us, if not one of us, will be there to kind of answer questions. But I think also the approach would be We don't really want to answer specific data questions. We might repeat things that we already talked about or was presented. But if there are very specific questions, we'll probably just ask, whoever's asking to reach out to us, or we can get back to them. Just because we don't really want to try and pull something out of our hat and kind of, in case that's incorrect or misinterpreted. So, but I think we're looking for somebody that might be able to introduce it physically at the meeting and be in person. So I don't know if anyone.
I can do that with you if you plan on going.
Sure.
Yeah.
And of course, anyone else from the committee is welcome to join and be there as well.
Yeah, and I think we've been asked by the board to try to keep it around 20 minutes or so.
With questions, yeah. So that's
So we may
what I
not
heard
have
from
much
Matt.
time for questions at the meeting.
Yeah. Anything else on the report, the slides?
I have a quick question.
Yep.
When you did your survey and you talked about randomly selected, I just want to make sure the public understands what that means and how you did that, so they
Yeah.
don't ask questions they may not have information about.
Yeah. So
Double random selection, didn't you?
yeah. So what we did is our population that we took the samples from was the Oregon State Secretary of State's office voter roll, active voter roll for Chehalem Park and Recreation District, although it was actually the Newburgh School District, which I understand there's just a few folks who were left out of one or the other, but pretty close to the exact population of the district. Of course, those being registered voters, automatic in Oregon, above 18. And then what we did is, with Kat's help, we sent that over to, we pulled 10 different random samples of 5,000 individuals, and then we used a random number generator to select which one of those 10 samples we would actually use. So then we took that 5,000 person sample and sent it over with Kat's assistance to Oregon Data, who worked through and removed anyone whose mailing address on file for that voter record was outside of the district, or anyone that had a USPS post office, their like return to sender, like a forwarding address. So that brought us down from 5,000, which was the original goal, to the 4,810. Was removing those folks who don't have deliverable addresses or no longer true residents of the district. So like if I was polled, I would have been removed because my mailing address for my ballot is in Bend. So that's how we got to the 4,810. Was we took 10 different random samples of 5,000, randomly selected one of the 10. From there, removed any undeliverable folks or people out of district, and then we ran with that listserv.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Well, I do just want to, in the meeting, acknowledge all the folks that helped make this possible. Matt Dolphin was a phenomenal help in a lot of phases of this, working with me as a volunteer principal researcher. Also want to thank all the committee for your work and kind of bring this about, all of our hard work over the last 2 years, going on 3 now, of kind of bringing out these issues and figuring out a way to get more public input involved. Also Allegra and Oregon Data that I mentioned, which helped us actually sift through those samples and then be able to send out those mailers in a way that we could track it. So we had like 3 or 4 different ways that we could track the legitimacy of surveys back to their invitation. Also, Dr. Beth Marino and Craig Limberg, who are professors at OSU Cascades. I worked with them on a technical advisement in the early phases of the survey development to make sure that it was in line with all the correct practices. Craig actually collaborates with OPRD on their SCORP survey every year, so he's very attuned to how to do large population surveys for recreation. And Beth Marino runs a lab for the American Conversation, which is all about how do folks collaborate around contentious issues, so very relevant. Also want to thank Tom Hammer, who very early on, when we mentioned this idea, wanted to see the survey questions and actually helped us eliminate some additional bias and add some questions that maybe improve the perception of the survey to folks who maybe would be kind of skeptical of it. The board for, of course, endorsing this project and sponsoring it. Don, Casey, Kat, Richard, Brian for all their help and making it possible from a staff perspective. Then, of course, the citizens of CPRD who completed the survey and got us to that 12.8% response rate, which was statistically significant. So thanks to all those folks who were involved in helping make this possible. Just for some context, Bend Park and Rec just did a similar survey for all their parks and trails, and they barely exceeded ours. I think they had like a 15% response rate, and they paid, top dollar for a firm to come in and do it, and they did it a few different ways. So we produced I would argue, a pretty substantial project from a volunteer perspective, and it was definitely made possible thanks to everyone's contributions collectively. So thank you. With that said, I will move the motion to approve our CHTAC Community Trails Survey report for presentation to the CPRD Board of Directors and distribution to the general public. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Marty seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. All right. This one might be of interest to folks in the room. Cycling trails discussion. Matt.
Yeah, I thought it would be helpful to resurface the issue of lack of cycling trails within our district. As many people know, the board made a decision to block access to bikes as of November of this last year, and to make both sides of the park equestrian access. So it was great to have. I appreciate. Was it David? Yeah. I appreciate David coming in and providing just some possible options. I think what may be helpful is to provide the board with some options. I don't know, Jim, you say that they may be looking at the county property. That was one alternative. Do we have other alternatives? I know our committee presented a recommendation to do a study to find a location, and I don't believe that passed. It just kind of stayed there on the table. So, I think it's our job, since we're hearing from the community. I know I'm hearing outside of these meetings from individuals, and I'm sure that other people are too, that we will just want to keep this an issue in front of the board so that we can make this a great place to bike for that segment of the population. So that was my thought. Any other thoughts to add to that?
I think definitely speaking back to the survey results, which we can now use to kind of help frame our direction. One of the areas where we identified there was a lot of a strong opinion around looking for additional cycling trails. There's a slide in the presentation and some comments in the report around there's a question about do you agree that there's enough variety or mileage of trails? And we took out equestrians and cyclists, and they were almost mere opposites of the equestrians felt that they had enough variety and mileage versus the cyclists did not feel as much. So I think, and you mentioned the rough percentages of the folks who cycle and those who are horseback riders. We compared that to the SCORP data, which is the statewide assessment of how folks recreate, and it's about the same actually. So as far as comparisons, that works out, but I think looking at in statewide, if we can, around what's probably the best practice for the amount of mileage that each user group would kind of need, because right now we really have none for cycling. So there's a true need there, and I think not to necessarily rehash the issue of Bob and Crystal Riley Park for the equestrian use specifically, but we definitely can't wait forever to get a replacement park, a place where the folks in our community who want to recreate via cycling can do so. So I think that's definitely kind of mirroring what Matt was saying. I think that's going to be something we continue to bring back to the board, reinforce with the survey data, with the comments we get from the public, and aims of finding a solution rather than this idea of rehashing it. I think it's more of bringing it to their attention so we can find a good solution for cyclists. Anybody else have any comments there?
Unless they decide to share the park again until something is found, to find something new is on the order of years, right? I mean, you'd have to find a piece of property and build trails. Like there's no turnkey ready park for bikes.
Unless they took an existing hiking only park and theoretically turned it into a multi-use park. I mean, that would be the probably the lowest hanging fruit, but of course we know that the board is not super keen on multi-use to begin with, at least, cyclists sharing with other folks, so.
What would be like you and Young? I mean, that would be the only thing I can.
I mean, it would probably be up to staff recommendation and
Right.
the board, but I mean, that one certainly comes to mind. A lot of the other parks have such low mileage and
That's what I'm thinking.
are paved, so also comparing the experience. That's something that we didn't ask, was what kind of cycling, because the SCORP data breaks out like road cycling versus, paved path versus actual mountain biking, which are two different experiences. So we don't really know. I think that's another area of maybe working with the folks in the cycling community to determine what kind of experience are they looking for. And that might be helpful information we can gather to present to the board and staff so they can figure out a short-term and long-term solution. But
I just was wondering if the short-term solution might be of, and maybe they've considered this, but, cyclists, equestrians would have each, certain days for that park to make it livable for both, bicyclists, on this day, equestrians this day. I don't know if that would be something that could be considered.
yeah, I think there's a lot of ways that you could probably go about sharing trails or having designated times or specific trails. You have something to say on that?
Well, yeah, I think we need to start to look at alternatives. So that's a great idea. What are the different ways that Riley could be split differently? That's, I think, at least something that needs to be, if we're brainstorming very broadly, we need to include all potential ideas, even though that may be an idea that the board is very much against. It's at least something we should throw out on the table as an option, and then they can choose. And it also allows future boards to then see what the options are, so that if they decide at a future date to decide differently, then they can choose one of those options. But we put all the options out of the table, we give pluses and minuses. So days is one. We have already, and it was accepted by a previous board, to split by location. So half of the park goes to equestrians, half goes to bikes. There's probably some other ways to split. So there's Riley, but what are the alternatives? So we have Ewing Young, which is about a 1 mile. Is that primarily walking, or am I allowed to bike on that 1 mile of Ewing Young?
People do, but there's a lot of blind corners and there's a lot of chances for incidents to occur. So a lot of that would have to be addressed.
And that's
And some of that is terrain, and there's no way to address that.
so the corners and terrain make it not safe.
Yeah.
Not
For
as safe
bikes.
as it could be, especially if you're, looking for a mountain biking experience. It's not like to say that you're running 50 miles an hour, but you get going pretty good.
Yeah.
Casey, can I get you to use the microphone?
No, Richard.
I can only try.
So, and 1 mile is a pretty short bike trail. Do you mind if we have some mountain bike people in the audience, do we mind if I ask them what they would like to see in mountain biking trails?
If that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to share. I've been cycling at a semi-professional level since college and racing across the nation. Racing everything from, long distance, 24-hour cross-country races to just recreating with my family. And I can say that the experience of a 1 mile trail would not be anywhere close to what we would, really want for mountain biking. And just to be clear, mountain biking is more of the, very different than a BMX track, which is a great experience for people that want to use that. But that's one type of riding. There's, of course, gravel riding on gravel roads. There's more of like a path riding on, Banks Vernonia Trail, which is a paved. Mountain biking tends to be more of a single track type experience on a dirt path that hopefully would have some variation